What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. In this video, woohoo, um, phone just went off out of nowhere. In this video, we're going to be talking about that, um, that ABC interview, the first 100 days interview that was done with President Trump in the Oval Office a couple days ago. I think that was Monday. No, it was yesterday. Um, and yeah, we're going to view for just a couple of spots, like kind of the big hitters. The most like important things to really, I personally think we should take from this, um, and then and just talk about it. So thank you very much for joining me, and we're gonna get straight to it here. All right, so here we are right off the bat. We're going to go into the immigration section, because this is the real big hitter, I think, in this whole interview. And I am a couple minutes into the section. We're going to go over this. It's probably roughly about 5-6 minutes long. I'll probably maybe pause a couple of times through some of them and say something, but and then ultimately at the end of this section is where, for me, the biggest concern and issue is, that brings up a lot of questions, and for me, with Trump, and like how I feel we, you know, could question like anything that he says. So, anyways, here we go. We'll start here. Let's go.
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first. Do you acknowledge that?
Now, previous to this, he was asking, um, about, stating that, it's clear that the border, has the numbers and stuff have dramatically come down, which is true because of stuff that they've done, and basically, and a lot of threats and everything else. I mean, the numbers are way down, and I'm sure people love that. But what he was stating was that, there are some people that are worried about like the steps that you were taking, though, the methods in which you were taking when it comes to deportations and stuff like that. Um, and uh, and basically Trump just threw up. Well, because he was talking about due process. This whole section. Well, this whole first part of it's about due process, and Trump's basically saying, well, he throws it back. Looks like a lot of conservative people do, in this subject. They throw it back to, well, when Biden. Did we give due process to those 21 million, to me, come in that Biden let into the country or whatever? Did we give them due process? Did whatnot? Did they get their did they get trials and hearings or whatever? Because he keeps thinking about you'll see that he talks like, um the interviewer, I forget his name, Terry, I think, or whatever. Anyways, um, it keeps putting up that it's just hearings that are, these are really quick things that happen with each individual case, and it's not. But he makes it out like this is gonna, like, Trump thinks that it's like, or way he seems to perceive is that it's like, or the way he thinks of it is that there's like these major trials, like, I guess maybe like his own trials or whatever. And it's like, no, this is just quick hearings where they just see the case and they make it, they get to plead their case or whatever, but then judges made. It's not like this is something that goes days and days and weeks and whatever. But anyways, um, so yeah, that's basically what's going on here, and he's just continuing in, but there is a legal process, right? So let's go.
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this.
if you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials? Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to do?
The law is
Give
the
21
law,
million?
sir. The law is the law, and you're
The law
sworn
doesn't
to
say anything
uphold it.
about trials.
No, not trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally. They came into our country
Right.
illegally.
And
We
there's-
have to get them out.
There's a legal process for that.
I can't, sure, and we follow the legal process. I can't have a trial, a major
I'm
trial
not
for
saying
every
major.
person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country.
Right, so
we have to get them out,
They're
and we have to
bad
get them
guys,
out fast.
really bad guys. But in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
In our country, even bad guys get due process. Like the man that's sitting across from him. Even Donald Trump got due process. No, jokes aside, not joking, but whatever. But he's stating here, that 20, the 20, he keeps knocking on this 21 million people or whatever. For starters, it's not even remotely close to that. It's more almost half of that, like more around somewhere between 10 and 12 million that potentially came in. Some figures figure it up only about 8 million, but it's roughly around 10, 11 to 12 million that came in. Okay. But even so, okay, what was brought up somewhere that I saw, even in this 20 million mark, and this number is thrown up by the Trump regime as the number that of people that come over the border. And they're in the same argument they say that there's like 700 and something thousand that are hardened criminals, violent criminals. Okay. Let's say that those numbers are absolutely correct, right? There's 700,000 something violent criminals, and 21 million people have come across the border. If that is the case, the math would be that there's, of that 21 million, 96% of those 21 million people are nonviolent, innocent people. Only 3 to 4% of them are violent criminals. So you are actually making an argument that immigrants, illegal immigrants, because they state that they're all illegal, have a better violent to nonviolent ratio than American citizens. Because I think American citizens are somewhere in the lower 90s, upper 80s, something like that. You're literally saying that so this completely goes against your argument that these illegal immigrants, illegal immigrants are hardened criminals, and they're just here destroying our country. If 96% of them are nonviolent and are not criminals, it kind of goes completely against that. But then, he goes on, he keeps stating that they're, done all these crimes and murders and everything like that, whatever. But he keeps, like, and then he states that we're doing this legally. They're not getting hearings. These people are not getting any type of hearing. They're not being able to plead their case whatsoever. So therefore, they are not doing this legally. They're being deported, and even and what's even making this worse is that they're being deported. That there's so many of them that have been deported to to this, sitcot in El Salvador. That like that's the big crux that's going against, what's got people turning against his deportation in the first place. I mean, yes, there are other issues going on in that, people being deported, without any kind of due process, even back to their own countries. I mean, we just had the other day children that were deported, one of which was like a 4-year-old that had, stage 4 cancer, not and was just shipped, deported out of the country with their mother or whatever, without their medication, without any kind of connection to try to get, I mean, this is just, there are actions being taken that are wrong, and immoral. We even had a report, I think, come out yesterday or this morning about some ICE or whatever going raiding a home or something, which was determined to have illegal immigrants in it, that they wanted to deport. And when they got there, the people who were actually in the home were not the people they were looking for, but the ICE agents made them exit the home, which was including children, girls that were like in their underwear, pajamas, or even in their underwear, like partly naked. Reports that it was raining as well, while they raided the home, and then took electrical devices and money from the home. The ICE agents took their money from the home, took electrical devices like phones and things like that they could like in I mean, this they basically robbed these people of their belongings. And then, while, like I said, little kids, being put out of the house while they were doing this in their underwear, this kind of thing is just wrong. It's immoral, and it's disgusting, honestly. But he's sitting here defending it. These type of actions. He's defending all of this process, and we just got to get them out. We got to get them out.
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard. These are illegal. They came in illegally.
But they get due process.
Well, they get a process where we have to get them out. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyers say.
Right. All right, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyers say.
You deported more than 200 Venezuelans to that prison in El Salvador. You say they're violent, they're gang members, they're terrorists. Many of them don't have a criminal record at all.
Well,
but I want to.
I'm not so sure about that. If you take a look,
I want to wait.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Why are you not so sure about that? What do you mean you're not so sure about that? That comes to say that, well, maybe they are, maybe they're not. I'm not so sure. I mean, I haven't seen the data. I wasn't, I don't know. I was just told that they were bad. And there's a point, the reason why I say that.
Read you something.
Excuse me, when you look at those people, they were violent people. They were violent people.
But many of them don't have
You just have to look at them. You just have to look at them. You can tell they're violent people.
a criminal record
Go
at this
ahead.
point.
By their, tattoos and clothing and dark skin.
All right, so I want
That's
to
what
read
you
you
say.
something. Well, it's based
Go
on
ahead.
their lawyer, what their lawyers
Go
have
ahead.
said. Okay.
Go ahead.
Joe Rogan said this. Joe Rogan.
I feel like he dropped the ball in that second right there. This Terry guy or whatever. He kind of dropped the ball there.
One of the leading podcasters, Trump supporter, about the deportation of Venezuelans. He said, quote, rounding up gang members and shipping them to El Salvador with no due process, he said it was dangerous, and added, quote, we got to be careful that we don't.
This is actually
100%. Yeah, we want to be
completely
careful. and we
pointless. I
are
don't care
careful.
what Joe Rogan
We're
said.
doing something that has to be done. We have a country that's very sick. Joe Biden, and it's not him because I don't even think he knew.
This is the one thing too. He constantly, and I unfortunately watched most of this interview. He's constantly referring to Joe Biden. This guy cannot get Joe Biden off his fucking brain. I mean, he blames Biden for everything. He's constantly referring to him, talking about him. Oh, he's such a horrible guy. He's, stupid. He can't, incompetent, sleeping or whatever. Like, it's like, dude, get over it. Get over it already. Yeah, okay. Whatever. He was sleeping. He was a moron. Okay, fine. Move on. We're talking about you and your presidency. Stop referring, and I mean almost every question he does this, and it's so frustrating.
What the hell was happening? But the people around him are vicious people.
I think that was a key thing.
We're doing something that has to be done. We have a country that's very sick. Joe Biden, and it's not him because I don't even think he knew what the hell was happening, but the people around him are vicious people. And what they've done to the country is unbelievable.
I find that interesting because even there, he kind of almost threw Biden a bone and acting like, well, I can't really completely blame him because he didn't know what the hell was happening. He was asleep and all, and but he had vicious people around him, and it was unbelievable what they did to this country. And by the end of this, I'm going to argue that Trump is the same. Okay? Just saying
They've
that.
allowed 21 million people to pour into our country. Many of these people are criminals. They've allowed
You will start to see that Trump himself doesn't know what the hell is going on, and that there are vicious people around him that are destroying this country, and they're using him as a puppet, in my opinion.
mentioned Venezuela, the jail.
Doesn't make him good in this situation whatsoever, because he's complicit in it, and he's bad in himself.
Jails of Venezuela to be emptied into the United States. Do you know Venezuela crime is way down? Way down. You know why? Because their criminals are now living happily in the United States of America, and we're getting them out. And I was elected to get them out, and we're getting them out. And we're getting them out fast, and we're getting them out legally. Now, in some cases, we have judges. In some cases, they're radical left judges. What happened the other day, where a judge was protecting a criminal, was horrible. And
he's referring to the one judge that they turned around and arrested. She was having a hearing on a case for an immigrant that ICE was outside, and they've been doing this here lately, where they are sitting outside courts or going into courts to make arrests while cases are being held on these individuals, which is something that was previously kind of deterred from and kind of thought to not be like a smart strategy, because the idea is that you want these people to come to these hearings. You don't want, there's this argument that we just allow people into the country, we give them a hearing, and then they just never show up for the hearing. But if you're doing this type of actions, you are actually incentivizing them not to come to the hearing, because then they'll be too afraid that if they come to the hearing, they're going to get arrested anyways. Even though they're trying to go through the legal process, but yet you're there waiting for them to try to, arrest them, detain them, whatever, and attempt to deport them anyways. Like, you're actually making the situation worse. That's the problem with this. And this goes to even, the going to the schools, going to the churches, going to the, all these different facilities. Like within this regime opened that up, you're disincentivizing people to actually go to places, or to show up where they are supposed to show up, trying to go through the processes or whatever the case. She saw that this was happening. She told the immigrant to go through another office, which honestly didn't really even help them go anywhere, or keep them from, like, it was just at the other side of the hall. As far as I know, it could have been just a way of making sure that the arrest didn't happen as they were going out, like, the main entrance, that it would be out of the courtroom if it happened or whatever. She was trying to, they argue that she was trying to protect him and trying to allow him to escape. I'm not so completely convinced by that, but either way, it didn't really help him. So then they turned around and arrested her for interference in an investigation, or an attempted, whatever, detainment or arrest or whatever the case. It was really stupid. But again, is that they are going to the point of, now not only have they been attacking judges, but now they are even trying to make examples of judges by by actively arresting them, and also arresting her in a way that she was arrested, like, in public, like, very, openly. And it wasn't, where in most cases this would be something more like, hey, come in and, to the department or whatever, and we'll handle it kind of off the grid or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this was like aggressively in public, arresting of a, judge. It was just everything this administration does is out of the, norms of what usually happens, for whatever, respect, decorum, or whatever the case, anyways.
I think she's got big problems,
Probably.
frankly. And there are a couple of them like that.
I want to talk about one
Wait a
man.
minute.
Yep.
We have to be treated fairly by judges, and we're not being treated fairly by all judges.
Oh, that's a subject. So
Exactly. That's the subject yourself. What do you mean treated fairly? By what he means by treated fairly, meaning the judge is ruling for him. If a judge rules against him, they're not fair. They don't see it my way. They're not agreeing with me, so they're not fair. So they're bad judges, and we need to, have them investigated, or even now, I guess, arrested. And this is the problem with Trump, with everything. If you're not agreeing with him, you're being unfair. You're not being nice. You're being, mean. Oh, I'm such a meanie. Why are you being so mean to me?
you're saying that you don't like some of the rulings, some of the court orders.
I think the rulings will be overturned, yeah.
All right, well, let me ask you about one man and one court order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not have said that, And just so you understand, the person that you're talking about, you're making this person sound, this is a MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him, okay? This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands, sir.
He came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it.
You hear that? He could. Now, just a couple weeks ago, They're acting like, no, I couldn't do this. This is not up to me. It's up to Bukele. It's all on him. I can't do anything about this. Right there, yeah, I could call.
Pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court...
See there? He would do it. He says, he admits it right there. He would do it. But he doesn't think he's the gentleman that he says he is, and you'll see even more why.
has
he's
ordered
not.
you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
You have lawyers that don't want to do this. What fucking lawyer? This isn't up to a lawyer. The lawyer does not make the law. The lawyer does not set the boundaries of whether somebody should be brought back, facilitated, or anything. That is the court's ruling. That's the judge's ruling. I don't give a fuck what a lawyer wants or not. And that's the thing. He refers to his lawyers already once or a couple of times. So I can only imagine that this is what he's talking about is his lawyers don't think it's a good idea. They don't like it or whatever. They're telling him not to do it, going against a judge's rule. Not even just a judge, but the Supreme Court ruling at that.
Buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen,
Exactly. I follow the law. As he states out, the Supreme Court says what the law is.
I was elected to take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man.
Here he goes again.
And a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, a great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my number one issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue.
I guess he's bobbing
I've done
and
an
weaving. He's
amazing
doing
job.
his
I had
little
closed borders. He
whatever
said you
the
couldn't
case.
do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened, and it happened very quickly. Wait a minute. When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member.
Okay. All right. This is the place. I want you to really listen. Okay? I want you to really listen to this section. Let's go.
Of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not
Don't
have the
do that.
letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
Yeah, that was Photoshop. So let me
That
just...
was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it
agree
was
to disagree.
Photoshop? Well,
Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He
Fair
had
enough.
MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine,
No,
sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They
Take
weren't
a look
there,
at the
but they're
photograph.
there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
he's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do
We'll take a
such a
look at that.
disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something
All right,
else?
it's contested. Ukraine.
Coming up.
What do you say to that? could you feel the frustration and the like disbelief in Terry as he's trying to explain or trying to like this man genuinely thinks that that picture he held up on his little truth and tweet with those MS-13 on the knuckles, like across the knuckles, was actually real. That's what he's claiming here. That's what he's claiming here. That he actually believes that this photo right here these are real. This is a tattoo. This MS-1 and 3. This man right here, holding that picture, thinks that that MS-13 is quite literally a tattoo. I guess he also thinks that this marijuana smile cross skull, and I'm almost positive that that's not even on his actual hand. He actually thinks, and these are like that they are actually tattooed. Do you see the difference in this? This actually being a tattoo. See how discolored it is? This is like in like Tahoma or Verdunana or whatever the hell, like time face. These were these are typed in like Photoshop or Paint or something and then printed out for him. This is photoshopped. There's nobody with any kind of common sense would think that this is actual tattoos. This man right here, this orange bumbling buffoon, thinks that this is actual tattoos. And he's arguing with the man that they aren't actual tattoos. With complete certainty. So you can only accept two possibilities here. That he does in fact actually believe it. And is arguing for that concrete belief in his own mind, which could have only been put there by somebody telling him that that was tattoos, more than likely. Or he knows that he's lying. And he's deliberately trying to make either the Terry, the interviewer, look like an idiot or try to make him look like an idiot, or he's trying to convince him to agree to him for the sake of his followers, who he thinks believes every word that he says. And so he's like taking it to the grave, kind of like lying. It's only two things that could happen here. You have some people that are arguing, yeah, he definitely knows he's just full of shit and he's lying and blah, blah, blah. And while that could be possible, I'm falling more towards the idea that he literally does not know. He does not know what the hell is going on, because when you listen to him talk about a lot of other things, it is clear as day that he also does not know a clue about those other things either. And he is solely going off of what he is being told by his advisors. I think that this man is completely clueless about the majority of the going-ons in the White House. And he is sheerly going off of what he's being told. The only thing that he actually might have some like competence and like fortitude in applying his own like opinion or ideology is tariffs. This shit right here, he does not have any clue about. So I've said I would go back, when going back to what he said about, an incompetent, a man who didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and that he had vicious people around him. I think that Trump does not know what the hell he's doing. It's not what the hell he's talking about. It's not what the hell is going on. And he's incompetent. And he's got vicious people around him who is just telling him what they want to tell him, because they know he is naive and gullible and will just accept anything that they are telling him, because he either trusts them or it sounds intelligible enough to him to believe it. And he's just accepting it. So here's the question I want to pose. All right, now, because, I don't trust anything he says. I think he's a buffoon no matter what he says. But here's my question for you, who are like, either full on like true believers of everything that he says, MAGA, or even say you're just like one of these that just sort of like, yeah, he says some crazy stuff, but it's either just a little hyperbolic or maybe he just says things, we don't really completely mean it, or I think he is competent though, blah, blah, blah. When he says this,
on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS13.
It says MS13.
That was Photoshop. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that.
he-
Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked
he does that shit all the time too. You're not being very nice.
I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshop? Well,
Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos.
MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
All right. We'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that.
Such a disservice. No. Trump, you are just such a disservice. Because you have a swath of people in this country who wholeheartedly believe you in every fucking word that comes out of your mouth. And it is clear as day when listening to something like this that you are oblivious, that you do not know what you're talking about, that you are either boomer enough or just completely unintelligible or and ignorant in what's going on, and you are just spitting out propaganda that has been told to you by vicious people around you. And then that stuff is being believed and spread and defended, and it's lies. So I'm bringing up the question to you, those of you who follow him so strongly, believe every word that he says. You assuming that you listen to that section right there and realize that he's wrong, because this is not a tattoo. This is photoshopped, clear as day. This is not even an argument. This is photoshopped. We've seen the other pictures of him from Bukele's own account of him in El Salvador when the senator went down there to visit him. The pictures up close show that only thing on his hands are them images right there. That's it. Now we can have a discussion, and we have had to talk about what those symbols could represent and whatnot. Okay, basically like, marijuana makes me happy, Lord, Christ, or whatever, till death. That's the most logical, reasonable, like, meaning behind those tattoos. Yes, I know people are saying marijuana and smile. That's the M and the S. Across. Oh, it was a one, but they're trying to hide it. But there is absolutely no argument. Your argument completely goes dead when it comes to the skull, because the skull in no way, no form, anywhere in history has been connected to the number 3. There's no way you can shape a 3 out of this. It's not there. So your definition is dead. But you cannot listen. How can you listen to that section right there and acknowledge that, yeah, he is most certainly wrong here? I cannot believe, and it be concerning that he actually honestly believes that and argues in defense of it. How can you take anything else he argues so, wholeheartedly, even if you want to scratch your head on it and be like, I'm not sure that makes any sense, but I mean, he's saying it, so I guess so. How can you believe anything that comes out of this man's mouth when he believes something so blatantly and just irrefutably wrong? You have to take the next steps and start to, at the very least, question a little bit. A little bit, maybe. Question him a little bit. He might not always be right. And actually look into what this man's saying. Break it down a little bit. We got to cut through. I'm trying to cut through the wall that apparently some people have when it comes to this man. And that's this kind of the way that I'm moving in the direction of with this channel is, you know, taking me and my like bias and molding and framing it around from a right perspective. How can you, as someone who trust this man, trust him after listening to something like that? And he goes on to hit him on it later on as well. Again. Let me try to find it real quick. It may have been in the after thing. He talks about Canada there. He's hitting on Biden again. Oh, no. I don't, he brings it up again somewhere. I can't remember where. But anyway, at the very least. It continues on to defend Doge. He continues on to, talking about, this part right here. And this is what I'm talking about. This is a part of.
Well, prices are down.
Not the tourism.
Gasoline's down. Energy's down. Tourism
into the United States from around the world.
Because he's talking about Canadians being very upset, and that we're seeing the effects of this because tourism is down. And it's not just Canadians, but a large amount of the tourism is down because Canadians are refusing to travel to the U.S. But this is what he.
It feels like there's been reputational
the
damage.
country's doing great. Well, prices are down.
Not the tourism.
Gasoline's down. Energy's down. Tourism is going to be way up. Wait till you see the numbers. The tourism is way up.
Not now.
Now, Canada, tourism's doing very well. We're doing very well.
Tourism's doing very well. No, none of it's doing well. Gas prices are not down. Yes, the prices of crude oil are down, but gas prices at the pump are not down. Matter of fact, over the past week or a couple of weeks, they've actually went back up a little bit. So no, they are not down. They're going back up. The prices of groceries are not down either. They're going back up. Energy is not down. And tourism is falling off a cliff. Tourism is way down. He lives in a completely different dimension than the rest of us. And I don't know if, like I said, if it's being completely oblivious to the reality, like so departed from reality that he lives in a different space. Or he thinks that he just speaks shit into existence. Like, knowing that he's wrong. He's just speaking it into existence and it's going to happen. Maybe that's the case too. Or he just flat out lying. But because he wants to, it's like, the idea of, the more you lie about a lie, the more true it becomes. Because you start to believe it, the more you hear a lie, the more true it becomes because you start to believe it. That's his strategy with his base, is to continuously lie and 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 lie, to the point that they hear it so much that they believe it. And then he apparently starts to believe it too. So like I said, he's either doing it on purpose or he is absolutely, completely oblivious. And he lives in an alternate universe in his own head. Or like I said, he's oblivious and he just believes what people are telling him. His advisors are saying, yeah, gas is up. I mean, gas is down. Yes, groceries are down. Yes, tourism's doing great. The world is amazing. People love us. Because at one part in here, he's talking about how, it seems like the sentiment around the world is that, they're losing respect for America. And he's, no, we've got the most respect we've ever had. It's great. Everything's great. And you hear this all the time from Trump. Everything is amazing and wonderful. It's like he's putting out all these wonderful things that only are identified to him, and then everything else is identified to anybody else, particularly Joe Biden, is horrible. And it was just so bad. It's so nasty. It was so despicable, incompetent, blah, blah, blah. It's only good around me. It's only good when I'm around. Everything I touch turns to gold. This is what I'm talking about. So how can you believe in this man? Anything he says. Or like I said, at the very least, start to question things that he says. Start to make you go, okay, he said it. I'm going to give him the benefit of a doubt, but I'm at least going to take a second and look it up, Google it or something. Maybe don't just take it on the surface and go with it. And if you do that, a lot of times you will realize when you actually search it up that it's a lie. Or at the very least, there's a whole lot of question in it. Anyways, thank you for joining me. I don't. It is. I'm completely dumbfounded by it. I genuinely did not think that he actually thought that those were tattoos. Like, who would? But he wholehearted, like the Elon Musk, full chest, like Sig Heil, like he confidently argued that was a real tattoo. I mean, it's crazy. Thank you very much for joining me. Check out the other stuff. You see it on the screen. Do the damn thing. And I'll see you next time. Clear Talk. Peace. I'm out.